I was DMing a long-running high magic campaign when my party found a major plot hook I've been hinting for at like a year. In my world, all races pretty much live together in harmony. But throughout the campaign, not once did I ever use a dwarf as an NPC, despite one of the PCs being one. It took my players months to finally ask me what the deal was with the missing dwarves. That's when I told them that the dwarven kingdom was under attack from an army of mind flayers, so the dwarf king summoned all dwarves to defend their home, all except the PC's dwarf, who was considered a traitor. So they got to the Dwarven Kingdom, killed a couple Mind Flayers, and traveled to the Underdark to find out why the Mind Flayers are attacking. Halfway through the first session there, the fighter says he'd like to buy a magic item. So the sorcerer volunteers to teleport them back to the magic shop. Now, this particular sorcerer didn't have teleport or a teleportation circle. What he did have was plane shift, and he's been using it for fast travel. I asked him what plane he wanted to travel through, and he said the Feywild. I had already explained to them before that the Feywild time works differently, and they could experience it firsthand the first time they went there. A minute turned into about a day in the material realm. But the sorcerer was confident, and the others wanted magic items, so off they went. I rolled the dice to determine how much time passed. 1 month. No problem. I had a safety net in place in case this sort of thing happened. The king of the Feywild will catch them, rebuke them, and send them back without any change in time passing. Unfortunately for them, they somehow avoided him and left the Feywild before I could, quote-unquote, capture them. So they arrived in the magic shop, and I described how the owner was surprised to see them, that she thought they died with the dwarves when their kingdom had been overturned by mind flayers, and that they've been gone for a month. And that's the story of how my players let the bad guys win, and the dwarf PC realized he was now one of the last dwarves in the world who wasn't dead or a slave of the mind flayers. So we join our party, comprised of a human rune knight fighter, a human assassin rogue, a half-dead necromancer wizard, a ranger beastmaster halfling, and a Valkyrie, basically a paladin. At a night at the local inn discussing plans of an attack on a dragon cult, the group thoroughly checked their rooms. After discussing the plan, the wizard, being a nervous, paranoid, cowardly wretch, decided to check outside the second-story window, looked at the roof, and rolled for perception. A natural 20. You see a slightly out-of-place roof tile. The wizard, I throw the cat out the window. To clarify, his cat is his familiar. No stutter, no hesitation, nothing. We just started losing our shit. After a bit of laughing, I decided to give him inspiration for it. Wizard. Rolls perception 7. Inspiration up to 10. Me. You see a blur moving towards the forest. The wizard told the others. The rogue immediately jumped through the window, chasing it. Not long after, the fighter catches up with the rest of the group trailing behind them. At one point in time, during the chase, the rogue trips and falls behind. The fighter decides to use his ability to become large and catches up with the thing that is spying on them. A green wormling. When our fighter got close enough, he jumped into the air with his axe. Missed when another wormling pushed the other, being chased out of the way of the axe blade and flying in separate directions, making the fighter chop a tree in half. The rogue catches up and they split up, chasing one each. The rogue holding steady with acrobatic checks, but after a low acrobatic check on his part and a high one on the wormling, he lost it. Give me survival to track it. 1. It's gone. Back to the fighter keeping up with his target as well. Fighter. I want to grapple him. He rolls with advantage thanks to this size difference. Natural 20. He slams it to the ground. A little afterwards, the rest of the party makes it towards them. They tie it up and interrogate them, learning the exact position of the cult's base and that an adult green dragon, its dad, is staying there. They end up convincing the wormling to work for them or die, and now they're taking it back to the town. So yeah, the next session is going to be very fun. Tildeer. How throwing a magic cat through a window led to a giant chasing a green wormling. So I'm DMing a Tombs of Annihilation, and my players decide they want to go to this one location in Schult, and their guide tells them to go around this way, even if it takes a little bit longer, because 1. Fort Belleroon is on the way and should allow them to restock, and 2. It lets them avoid the undead territories of Schult. My players agree that it makes a lot of sense, and it works perfectly for me. There's a side quest in Fort Belleroon, which essentially is creating a distraction for reasons unknown to this post in an effort to avoid as many spoilers as possible. I have someone in the tavern they're talking to overhear this and mention the side quest, and my players are like, nah, fuck it, sure. So, Schult happens to be a place where basically everyone is of the same religion, and a good number of the people are quite firm in their beliefs, which 2 of my players are aware of as they are from Schult, and the rest of the players are beginning to understand as social interactions continue. That being said, they chose to attack the religion of Schult along with all the fruits and vegetables. They decided to create a distraction in a way that doesn't land them in jail or anything like that, even if it makes people hate them. It made people hate them. They enter Fort Belleroon, make their way into the bazaar area, made some noises with their drums, don't ask me where they got the drums, to get people's attention, and then began preaching about the god of tomatoes, Dio Brando. They attacked the believers in Religion of Schult, avoiding spoilers as much as possible, even if minor, claiming them to be believers of a false god and heathens who reject the teachings of the one true Dio Brando, Lord of Tomatoes. Their guide begins to slowly back away in an effort to disassociate with the people gradually gaining hate, only to decide later, screw it, I'll have some fun, and charge in screaming,
Why is your tomato god better than my orange god, the Star of Joe?
Once I say this, one of my players tells the guide, oh, you're approaching me? After which the JoJo references start flowing. They notice that one of the fruit/vegetable vendors in the bazaar is selling a lot more tomatoes, as people start throwing them, and yelled out, "He paid us so that he could sell more tomatoes," which creates a little more chaos. And at this point, the guards have to step in and make sure nobody gets stabbed. After a few minor brawls break out, the players hear a familiar voice from a random encounter they had earlier from a random table I found via Google. A halfling with a fishing rod looking for a lake but can't find any, who manages to piss off some baboons and begins running from them, only to later run past the characters with basically an army of baboons behind him. Odd, unrealistic even, for a random encounter, but who cares? I had done some rolling every once in a while to see if the halfling ran by again, and behold, I rolled the lucky 7 on a d20, and the players began to hear a faint, "Get the hell away from me!" begin repeating until it's clear, along with the sound of a whole lot of monkeys. The halfling runs through the fort, and the now army of baboons begin to cause even more chaos than before. I describe the scene as, quote, "Of the mob, a good chunk are now passed out, either from laughing too hard or from the baboons, and the rest are pissed. But there's so much chaos that even if you tried to escape, you wouldn't need any amount of stealth." One of my players hears this and says, "Can I steal some stuff then?" So I say, sure, and he rolls a nat 20, in addition to a positive dex modifier and a +2 for nat 20. That's what I do for skill checks, house rules. So I say, the first thing that comes to your mind is tomatoes. So you steal roughly 5 to 6 gold pieces worth of them, which is impressive given that one tomato costs roughly 2 copper. And my players leave the fort, one of them carrying an entire barrel of tomatoes. I'm already prepping for the next time they go anywhere civilized as far as rumors go. And now, my players have decided that they're going to create a subplot, converting as many people as they can to the Church of Dio Brando, the god of tomatoes, who has a feud with the Star of Joe, Lord of Oranges. There is also some collective agreement that Goodberry will now take the form of cherry tomatoes, and if any one player dies, the next character will be a cleric of Dio Brando.